Tonight, breaking news. Mother Nature's fury as Americans make their way home this Labor Day. The flash flooding in Texas now turning deadly. Police there confirming at least 2 people killed by the floodwaters in the Lone Star State. People bailing out of their car in Houston after it got stuck in the rising waters. This as millions of Americans bake under holiday heat alerts. Also tonight, the earthquake disaster in Afghanistan. Rescue workers digging through the rubble looking for any signs of life. Victims airlifted by helicopter. The magnitude 6 tremor striking in the night, killing hundreds. You'll hear from one man who managed to escape. Plus, showdown in Chicago. Protests erupting over President Trump's threats to send federal troops to that city. Chicago's Democratic mayor ordering police not to cooperate with the feds. The Hershey Park hero now speaking out. The terrifying video, a young boy wandering onto a monorail track in the middle of the air. We speak to the father who brought him to safety. Plus, pulled from the wreckage, the Army football player and his dad dragging a man from his car minutes before it burst into flames. And calling all redheads, the festival in the Netherlands drawing thousands from around the world to celebrate red hair. And school bus chauffeur, the Virginia bus driver going viral for driving in style on the first day of school. And the Powerball jackpot exploding to over $1 billion. We'll tell you the odds of winning one of the largest prizes in history. Top Story starts right now. And good evening, I'm Ellison Barber in for Tom Llamas. As we come on the air and millions of Americans make the trek home this Labor Day, grim news out of Texas tonight. Flash floods this weekend have turned deadly. San Antonio officials confirming at least 2 people have been killed by rushing waters. In Houston, roads completely underwater, vehicles partially submerged. In South Houston, people abandoning their car after getting stuck in the floodwaters. And emergency crews pulling off a water rescue in San Antonio. But it's not just the flooding that's made this a dangerous holiday weekend. In Los Angeles County, California, nearly 600 rescues reported as rip currents threatened swimmers. And in the West, millions of Americans sweltering under a heat wave, a scorching end to summer 2025. All of this as some Americans just trying to get home from the holiday are facing travel delays. NBC's Dana Griffin leads us off.
Tonight, travel woes for some passengers this Labor Day. At Newark Liberty International, dozens of delays and a ground stop, the FAA citing staffing. Another ground stop at Reagan National due to volume. And at Dallas-Fort Worth, flights halted because of weather. The TSA expected to screen 17.4 million passengers returning home from Labor Day weekend. Out west, a different holiday challenge for LA County lifeguards.
They're going to be out on the sand looking for rip currents and people in distress.
Nearly 600 rescues over the weekend as dangerous rip currents and elevated surf impact beaches.
We've seen periods of these massive waves breaking at least 6 feet. This is adding to the danger.
The power of the wave is very, very impressive.
Families undeterred by conditions, but keeping a close watch.
It's very easy for a little child to disappear.
Across the West, hot temperatures impacting 25 million people, some states seeing 10 to 20 degrees above average. While in Texas, police say 2 people were killed and a 3rd missing during flash flooding on Sunday that left drivers stranded and rivers swollen. In San Antonio, a man had to be rescued by raft. Back in California, when swimmers get this warning,
We'll go out and just talk to those people, make sure they're safe, bring them back in, and then redirect them into a safer location.
And Dana Griffin joins us now from Santa Monica, California. I mean, Dana, we can see a lot of people behind you, seemingly not deterred by high surf warnings. Give us a reality check. How dangerous is it out there by the water?
Well, Allison, just from us standing here during the last 30 minutes, it has been nonstop, wave after wave. They are crashing hard, and some of these little kids that you see on this beach have been crashing into the beach as well, some around our feet. One actually held on to our producer David Douglas's leg just a moment ago. But you're right, as you can see, there are dozens of families out here. And look into the ocean. Right now, we've got a little bit of a lull, but these waves have been crashing constantly back to back. You've got a lot of parents holding on to their little ones. And so right now, officials are reminding people these squalls will last through the day. and one person had CPR performed on them over the weekend. So these are very life-threatening conditions. But as you can see, it's not deterring people here in Santa Monica. Ellison?
All right, Dana Griffin, thank you. Now let's bring in NBC meteorologist Michelle Grossman to tell us more about this week's forecast. Michelle, talk to us about the temperatures. Big picture, when do we expect things to start cooling down out west?
Hi there, Ellison. Unfortunately, we're going to see these temperatures hold on at least through most of this week, Thursday, late Thursday, breaking by Friday. But still, this is dangerous for a few reasons. We're going to see those temperatures soaring into the triple digits in some spots, 10, 20 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. It's going to last a while. That's really taxing on the body. And then we're not getting that relief at night. So we're looking at 25 million Americans from Washington all the way to Southern California under these heat alerts. And take a look at some of these temperatures. We're looking at temperatures into the 90s, into the triple digits. So Boise, we're looking at 99 degrees tomorrow. That's well above normal for this time of year, about 14 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. 91 in Billings. Look to the west, though, to the east, excuse me. We're looking in the middle of the country. Temperatures only in the 70s and 80s, fall like there. So mixed highs over the next several days. Still really warm on Wednesday in the northwest. Seattle, 81 degrees, 7 degrees above normal, and into the 90s in Salt Lake City and Billings, and still really cool throughout the northeast and Mid-Atlantic and also New England. Those fall afternoons stay put through late week into New York City. We're looking at temperatures only in the 70s, still baking, though, to the west. And Chicago by Thursday, just 64 degrees. That's one big weather story. We're also watching some showers and storms. Some of these storms are reaching severe limits in parts of Oklahoma and Kansas, North Dakota. So you notice all those lightning strikes, lots of energy out there. And Allison, we're going to continue to watch these storms not only tomorrow, but also on Wednesday, where some of these could produce localized flooding. Back to you.
Michelle Grossman, thank you. Now to that other major breaking news we're following overseas, the devastation in Afghanistan after a massive earthquake struck the region overnight. Take a look at this map. The magnitude 6 quake slamming the area just outside Jalalabad, killing at least 800 people and injuring thousands more. The desperate search for survivors now underway, and our Keir Simmons has the latest.
Tonight, victims trapped for hours as rescuers scramble to find survivors under the rubble of a powerful earthquake that struck Afghanistan early this morning. The 6.0 magnitude quake hit in the mountains near the Pakistani border, striking in the middle of the night as people slept. It was midnight when the quake started, breaking our house. God have mercy, we managed to escape outside, this man says, who says several family members were killed. Many people in this remote region live in desperate poverty, making less than $1 a day. Tonight, first responders struggling to reach the area. Roads blocked from widespread disruption, collapsing already fragile homes. People dependent on the Taliban government for help. Seen here evacuating the wounded, including young children, on helicopters. Many were not reached in time. Everything here has been destroyed. I want the government to come and help us, this man says. Afghan officials say at least 800 people have died and expect that number to rise, while aftershocks were reported as far away as India. And tonight, the Taliban Health Ministry has asked for the international community's assistance in the quake's aftermath as the death toll there keeps rising. Alison?
Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons, thank you. Back home to the protest in Chicago tonight. Residents there speaking out against President Trump's threat to send in the National Guard, a possible part of Trump's larger crackdown on crime that has seen thousands of Guard troops deployed in Washington, D.C. NBC's senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake covering it all.
Tonight, protesters on the streets of Chicago demanding President Trump not deploy federal forces to fight crime in the Windy City. And the city's Democratic mayor ordering Chicago police not to cooperate with the feds.
No federal troops in the city of Chicago.
NBC's Adrian Broadus speaking to protesters.
The message for President Trump?
Stay out of Chicago. We don't need you here. We don't want you here.
President Trump has repeatedly floated the prospect of sending in the National Guard to crack down on crime in Chicago after deploying the Guard to Washington, D.C. But Illinois' Democratic governor slamming the potential move.
We don't want troops on the streets of American cities. Right. That's un-American.
The governor noting murders are down 32% in Chicago this year, though this weekend at least 53 people were shot and 7 people were killed in Chicago. leading one Democratic alderman to conclude federal help is needed.
Safely. I had 2 teenagers shot in my community this weekend alone. So when I hear my Democratic colleagues tell me, don't worry, crime is down, Trump stay home in Washington, I have a real hard time accepting that.
It comes as 2 federal law enforcement officials tell NBC News that ICE, Border Patrol, and other federal agencies do plan to scale up arrests of undocumented immigrants beginning this week in Chicago, a sanctuary city that does not cooperate with ICE.
We will continue to go after the worst of the worst across the country, like President Trump has told us.
All as a federal judge dealt a legal blow to the Trump administration, blocking flights deporting unaccompanied minors who came to the U.S. illegally from Guatemala back home.
And Garrett Haake joins us now from the White House. Garrett, let's go back to those deportation flights blocked by a judge at the very last minute. Where do things stand with those minors tonight?
Yeah, Ellison, the judge criticized the manner in which those deportations were set to take place for the flights supposed to leave essentially in the wee hours of the morning. The administration has defended this, saying these were repatriated people were being returned to their country at the request of the Guatemalan government. The bottom line, though, is for at least the next 14 days while this case is reviewed, those children will remain in federal government custody. Ellison?
NBC's Garrett Haake on the North Lawn of the White House. Thank you. Turning now to the turmoil at the CDC. A blistering New York Times op-ed published today by 9 previous CDC directors blasting Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. All of this as confusion remains over how and where Americans can get the COVID vaccine. Here's NBC's Maggie Vespa.
Accusing him of endangering every American's health, tonight 9 former heads of the CDC slamming Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in a blistering New York Times op-ed. In it, blasting Kennedy's firing of CDC Director Dr. Susan Minares last week that sparked outrage within the agency, 4 top leaders resigning in protest. Last week, staffers cheered outside CDC headquarters in support. The former CDC heads writing Minares refused to, quote, rubber stamp his dangerous and unfounded vaccine recommendations aimed at restricting access or heed his demand to fire senior CDC staff. The former CDC leaders also accusing the secretary of downplaying measles vaccines and replacing experts on advisory committees with, quote, unqualified individuals who share his dangerous and unscientific views. Both HHS and the CDC tonight not returning NBC's requests for comment on the op-ed.
We need strong leadership that will go in there and that will be able to execute on President Trump's broad ambitions.
President Trump today challenging pharmaceutical companies to justify the success of their various COVID drugs after launching Operation Warp Speed in his first term, fast-tracking vaccine production. This as COVID cases rise in 31 states and access to that vaccine tightens. CVS requiring a prescription in 13 states plus D.C., adding it's unable to administer COVID vaccines in 3 states. Walgreens only saying it's prepared to offer the vaccine in states where we are able to do so.
Even insurance companies have not been able to navigate people in the right direction because of the lack of guidance from the CDC.
Confusion mounting as virus season approaches. Maggie Vespa, NBC News.
Turning back overseas to China, where the nation's President Xi Jinping flexed his geopolitical muscles, hosting a security summit where he was flanked by the leaders of Russia and India. Here you can see President Xi laughing alongside India's Prime Minister Modi and Russia's President Putin. One of those leaders pushed away by President Trump's tariffs, while the other was recently welcomed on U.S. soil as President Trump pushes for an end to Russia's war with Ukraine. This summit is said to be critical to President Xi's global governance initiative, which seeks to reestablish the world order away from the United States. For more, I want to get right over to NBC's international correspondent, Janice Mackey-Frayer in Beijing. Janice, what have we heard from leaders at the summit?
Ellison, this summit has been all about optics. China under Xi Jinping is seeking influence and to present an alternative to the world order long dominated by the U.S. In a speech to the leaders of Russia, India, Iran, Pakistan, a dozen other countries, Xi took some stabs at the way President Trump has been reshaping U.S. foreign policy. He talked of global upheaval and bullying without naming names, but all of it underscoring how he has been working to present China as the more stable option in what he called an inclusive world order. The summit also marked another opportunity for Russia's Vladimir Putin to step into the diplomatic spotlight. Just weeks ago, Putin met with President Trump in Alaska about the war in Ukraine. Today, he blamed NATO for the war and said he had, quote, understandings with President Trump. Putin didn't say, though, whether he has agreed to ceasefire talks, despite discussion of a deadline to do so. Instead, Putin was seen holding hands with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and sharing a car with him. This was also a key summit for Mr. Modi after President Trump slapped 50% tariffs on India for buying Russian oil. This was his first visit to China in 7 years after strained relations over border disputes. But the summit didn't need to deliver headlines or big deals. It was heavy on symbolism. And Kim Jong-un is about to join. He's making his way to Beijing by train to attend the huge military parade here. All of it a message that the leaders here may have differences among them, but they are united in saying to the U.S. and to the West that they are not without friends. Allison?
Janice Mackey-Freyer in Beijing. Thank you. We're back in a moment with the dramatic rescue caught on camera. We speak with the dad who sprung into action when a young boy went wandering onto a monorail track after being separated from his parents. Plus, what would you do with $1.1 billion? Powerball fever gripping the nation with tonight's jackpot soaring to the 5th largest in history. And North Carolina Tar Heel fans may feel like they've hit the jackpot. What to expect as Bill Belichick makes his coaching debut at UNC. Stay with us. Back now with a parent's worst nightmare unfolding at a Pennsylvania amusement park. Frightening video showing the moment a child walks onto a monorail track high up in the air before a heart-stopping rescue. NBC's Sam Brock has this report.
After 20 terrifying minutes of parents separated from their child, this young boy popped up on the Hershey Park monorail Saturday, 20 feet above the ground. Stop! As crowds screamed and the child covered his ears, John Sampson knew what to do.
Being a dad of 3, it gives you a big, different perspective on everything. So you see a child in danger, instantly, how can I help?
The father leapt onto the monorail from a nearby ice cream stand.
How did you get up the ice cream stand? Yeah, on the side of it, there's a fence. I climbed up on that, balanced on that, climbed up on the roof from there, and then it was a straight shot from there.
Where did this sort of like MacGyver level skill set come from?
I'll call it more of like dad strength.
According to Hershey Park, while our team was actively searching, the child entered a secured area for the monorail, which was not in operation, safeguarded by a chained closure and barricaded turnstile. Amidst the crowd's cries, Sampson concentrating on the task at hand.
I was able to grab him and hug him, and then I heard all the cheers after that.
Did he seem relieved instantaneously?
Oh, instantly. And just super scared, and then just gripping me, so happy to be in somebody's arms.
Not in the arms of a stranger, but for a relieved family, in the arms of a Hershey hero dad.
And Sam Brock joins us now in studio. I mean, when I first watched this video, I went through so many levels and layers of emotions, so many questions. Do we know how this child was able to get up there in the first place?
No. You watch the video and your heart starts to flutter just seeing him suspended there, right? We don't know how he managed to get through a barricaded turnstile, Ellison, a chained entrance that was blocked off. So he gets on the monorail. We don't know that. But here's the bigger picture, I think, for parents that are seeing this and thinking, could this happen to my child? If you look at overarching the safety figures from the last couple of decades in this industry, we spoke with the CEO of the group that represents amusement parks and attractions. It's down like 50% in the last 20 years in terms of just the number of people attending parks, 20 some odd percent as far as the number of people per rides. The bottom line is it's down. But 3/4 of the injuries or accidents that do happen, they say, are because people aren't following park guidelines. They're doing things they're not supposed to do. It's not because rides aren't working. It's not because safety protocols aren't being followed. It's usually because someone involved is not paying attention, whether it relates to a cell phone or following a family member, whatever it might be, they're not following guidelines and you get dangerous situations. But in this case, Hershey Hero feels like an appropriate name for a guy that scaled the side of a wall, jumped on an ice cream stand, and then leaped from the ice cream stand onto the monorail to capture this kid and to bring him back.
I mean, Hershey Hero indeed. NBC's Sam Brock, thank you so much. We appreciate it. All it takes is $2 and a dream. Millions of Americans tonight are swept up in Powerball fever, hoping to get their shot at an eye-watering $1.1 billion jackpot. You heard that right. That's billion with a B. It's now on track to be the 5th largest Powerball prize in the game's history. And here to break it all down is NBC's Steve Patterson. Steve, a lot of money on the line, right? But the chances of winning equally astronomical. What are the odds here?
I mean, I don't know. Does your producer have a drum roll machine? Are you sitting down? I know you're sitting down. Yeah, there you go. Look, I won't belabor the point, but I want to say the full amount just for effect. The odds are 292,201,338 to 1. Now, the next thing I would do as a reporter is list all of the things that you have more of a chance of doing, like being eaten by a shark, 264 million to 1, struck by lightning, plane crash, killed by a bee sting, killed by a grizzly bear, winning an Olympic medal, winning an Oscar, becoming a famous movie star, injured by a toilet. You have a higher chance of doing than winning this money. But that is also to say you have to hit 6 numbers, right? If you hit just a few of them, you could wind up with $1 million payment. So the chances aren't necessarily either binary. It's not 0 or 1. It could be that you end up with a cool million or so as well. But I mean, obviously, the chances are so astronomical. It's a wonder anybody plays.
Okay, well, help us dream for a minute. Say we get insanely lucky and win it all, or we win just a good chunk of change. There are 2 options, right? You could either take all of it at once or 30-something years of payments. What's the smart move there?
Yeah, so again, the options are on the table. It's either, and look, I asked everybody in the newsroom today. I called my mom. I was like, Mom, call your friends. What is the answer to this? So again, the options are the annuity, which is over 30 years, or the one-time payment of $498 million. But again, both of those options, one says before taxes, both of those are before taxes, right? The IRS, no matter what, they're going to get their cut. The states where you win are going to get their cut as well. I mean, I think most would say the smart money is to take the lump sum because it's really not what the option is about getting the money. It's what you do after you get the money, right? Are you a smart investor? You have more options. You have more control. What happens maybe to the lottery board in a few years? Anything could play into the factor of, well, are they really going to pay me all this money if I take the annuity? Whereas if you have the lump sum, you have full control. But I've done a number of stories with people who've taken the lump sum and then spent it all and then had less money than before they won the lottery. It is all possible, Allison. You got to be smart about it.
Steve, what did your mom say? Because I want.
My mom said, take the lump sum. Don't be crazy.
If I win, I'm taking Ms. Patterson's advice. I think we probably all should. Steve Patterson, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
When Top Story returns, caught on camera, the terrifying moment Love Island star Taylor Williams was thrown from and then rolled over by his own horse at a rodeo. Miraculously, he survived. Plus, the U.S. Army football player who, along with his dad, became a real-life hero off the field, rescuing a man from a burning car seconds before disaster. Back now with the push for compensation for those who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. You'll recall one of President Trump's first official acts in office was issuing sweeping pardons to the roughly 1,500 criminal defendants charged in the January 6th attack. And in the months that followed, the Justice Department fired or demoted some of the prosecutors who worked on January 6th related cases. Joining us now on the latest move is NBC Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona. Melanie, this proposal is trying to sort of turn the narrative, right, of what happened on January 6th and really flip it upside down, turning rioters essentially into victims. What do we know about this restitution proposal?
Well, there has been a long-running effort by Trump and his supporters to essentially rewrite the narrative about what happened on January 6th, from comparing it to just a normal tourist visit, to pardoning the rioters, to even firing the prosecutors who actually worked on the January 6th case. But giving money to members of the mob would really just escalate the whitewashing to a whole nother level. Now, it is a little unclear how this would all work, but a lawyer for some of the victims, he proposed the idea of creating essentially a special panel that would award financial damages to the rioters on a case case-by-case basis, very similar to how victims of the 9/11 terrorist attacks were financially compensated by the government. And the lawyer claims that he's even pitched the DOJ officials directly on this plan. So if the DOJ were to follow through on this, it would not only treat the rioters as victims, but it would also be another way to try to clear Trump of any wrongdoing for his role on January 6th, which really has been the driving force behind this entire attempt to rewrite the January 6th history.
You mentioned the lawyer. Let's talk about the lawyer that is leading this charge, because it's someone who has been in the spotlight before. A lot of viewers will probably remember this image of him. Mark McCloskey from 2020, the St. Louis-based lawyer pointing an AR-style rifle at social justice protesters outside of his home. He fought that case in court and has since gotten his weapon back. How did he become involved in this? And in terms of what could happen with this, this is presumably a friendlier Justice Department. Is this a case that could still face an uphill battle in court?
Well, the DOJ has not commented on this specific plan that McCloskey floated. It's unclear how seriously the DOJ is considering it. But McCloskey has been pushing this idea since March, when he and another lawyer announced that they were planning to sue the federal government on behalf of January 6th rioters. But nothing is out of the realm of possibility here. I would say during an interview back in March with Newsmax, Trump said there was a lot of talk about a so-called compensation fund for rioters, so he didn't rule it out. And just recently, one of the pardoned rioters who was forced to pay restitution as part of her sentence in order to help repair the Capitol, she got a refund and she got her money back from the government. So clearly, the Trump DOJ has just taken a much more friendly and sympathetic posture towards these rioters, Ellison.
NBC's Melanie Zanona, thank you. Now to top stories news feed. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani was hospitalized after a car crash in New Hampshire. Giuliani was being driven by his spokesperson when their car was struck from behind by a 19-year-old woman. He was taken to the hospital for a broken vertebrae, lacerations, and other injuries. His staff saying he will remain in the hospital as he continues to recover. State police are investigating the incident. This, as we are just learning that President Trump plans to award Giuliani with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He announced it in a Truth Social post this afternoon, saying more details to follow. And Love Island star Taylor Williams also hospitalized after a terrifying rodeo accident in Arizona. Williams was seen riding his horse at a competition when he and the animal suddenly took a tumble, trampled by other horses. Officials seen trying to help the reality star to his feet. In social media posts, Williams saying he was, quote, all good and that he will still attend upcoming events. And here in New York, an Army football player and his father saving a man from a vehicle just moments before it erupted into flames. Video of the daring rescue shows sophomore safety Larry Pickett Jr. and his dad jumping into action, dodging sparking wires, grabbing the man from the driver's seat and pulling him out of the car to safety. And just in time, because that car, you see it here, was completely engulfed by fire minutes later. And off the coast of California, a viral video showing over 100 bottlenose dolphins racing alongside a whale-watching boat. You see them excitedly launching themselves out of the water, some soaring as high as 10 feet into the air. This type of high-flying behavior is not typically seen by this particular species of dolphins, but experts say it demonstrates their incredibly playful nature. As millions hit the beach for one last holiday weekend of fun, we decided to resurface this warning. You may remember that lifeguard in New Jersey hospitalized after being impaled by a beach umbrella. That story and others prompting officials to set new safety standards in place to keep your umbrella safely tied down. NBC's Julie Sirkin has this one.
A picturesque day on the Jersey Shore. Beachgoers taking cover from the hot summer sun, all shattered in a moment.
8361, the umbrella's moving in the left armpit.
After a 19-year-old lifeguard in Asbury Park was stabbed by her own beach umbrella.
She said, I got impaled by the umbrella.
First responders rushing to the scene, power tools in hand.
We need that bandsaw for sure down here.
They cut the umbrella on both ends so they could remove that part of it. It was pretty ugly, but like I said, I think she's going to be fine from it.
It's a story all too familiar for Ed Quigley.
An umbrella is a javelin with a sail attached.
Ed nearly died after being struck in the eye by a rogue beach umbrella in 2015.
In brain surgery, I died on the operating table. Took them 23 minutes and 7 cycles with those shock paddles to bring me back.
Since that day, he's made it his mission to improve beach umbrella safety.
Everyone's just shocked that this is a thing that happens so regularly.
I think the first question to ask is, did you ever see an umbrella blowing down the beach?
Everyone has.
Well, if everyone's seen it, then everyone's been in a potential dangerous situation.
Now, Ed's installing these warning signs at beaches up and down the East Coast, like here in Wildwood, New Jersey, pointing beachgoers to a new voluntary safety standard for beach umbrellas from the Consumer Product Safety Commission.
So over 2 years, they tested beach umbrellas on beaches and in wind tunnels and developed the scientific data to say this is what you need to keep an umbrella secure. And basically what it is an anchor device that provides 75 pounds of resistance to lift, which is what the wind does.
We asked the expert, Ed, to show us how to set one up with an anchor.
This is actually the anchor. The umbrella goes through the center.
It's a little more involved than what you might be used to.
So then you attach 2 sides of this triangle. Grab your little shovel. We want to take this other loop up here, and then we just finish it off a little bit on the sides. Put your umbrella on it as normal and open your umbrella.
The result? Shade. That's much safer.
Now, if anybody tries to lift this umbrella, it's about 120 pounds. So it's not going anywhere.
Compare that to an umbrella without an anchor.
Now, how difficult is it to pull this umbrella out without the anchor? Nothing at all.
Ed says at beaches he's been to this summer, these types of anchors are not common yet.
I look forward to maybe another 10 years. I don't know if I last that long, looking out and just seeing every umbrella with an anchor device on it.
He's hoping to get the word out so that injuries like his never happen again. Julie Sirkin, NBC News, Wildwood, New Jersey.
And an update since we first aired that story, that lifeguard in Asbury Park, now back on the beach and expected to make a full recovery. It's a growing and troubling reality for so many seniors across America. Despite years of making good money and thinking that they are doing all of the right things, more and more seniors are finding themselves on the street when they fall on hard times. NBC's Stephanie Gosk has this eye-opening report.
For nearly 2 decades, Vernon Wedge worked security at Dillard's department store. He had 2 kids, a 401k. But when his eyesight went at age 69, the Arizona native found himself out of a job.
Money ran out. We got a shopping cart and hit the streets.
He was homeless for the first time in his life.
So those are the little shower spouts.
On a 107-degree day in Phoenix, he showed me what he had to do to keep himself, his adult son Grant, and their dog alive. The safest place was a local church where they slept for months.
On those nights when you were sitting looking up at the cross, what were you thinking about?
Trying to have God talk to me and tell me everything is going to be okay. Save my son, my dog. Help me.
Last year, more than 42,000 Americans over the age of 65 were homeless, and researchers estimate there could be more than 100,000 by 2030. Nationwide, there is a lack of affordable housing, and the average Social Security check has not kept pace with inflation.
When we age, we don't adapt very well to the heat.
How are you?
Much better. Nurse practitioner Leslie Hamadi watches the numbers of homeless seniors grow firsthand. Are you regularly finding people out here completely dehydrated?
Very, very dehydrated, lethargic. We do offer IV hydration if it's that bad. We're going to be pulling up.
The team drives the streets, matching up with people they see daily.
Good morning.
And those who they spot for the first time. Living on the streets is hard for anyone, but especially so for seniors.
Memory impairment is also something that happens when we age.
Yeah.
So even remembering, who do I call? Where do I go? So they need one-on-one support.
There is a safety net that is in place, but is it enough?
No, there's not enough. There needs to be more housing resources for our seniors.
Now, seniors-only homeless shelters are popping up around the country to meet the growing need. At St. Vincent de Paul, residents are allowed to live in these 8x8 cubicles for 2 years. Vernon only has 8 months left.
Do you worry that you could end up back on the street?
Yeah, at times. My vision getting even worse. I don't think I could do the street again. Oh, outside.
Now 73 years old, he's still searching for a permanent home.
Come on, buddy.
Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, Phoenix.
And tonight, the football world turns its eyes to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. That's where NFL and New England Patriots coaching legend Bill Belichick makes his college coaching debut at UNC. NBC's Jesse Kirsch has more on all of the buzz.
University of North Carolina's campus is buzzing tonight about a man who won't play a single snap of football.
And we learn more every day. And we'll learn more each game.
Bill Belichick is best known as the Patriots' six-time Super Bowl winning curmudgeon coach. Now the NFL legend is giving it the old college try.
I've been through a lot of opening days, and every one is the same in that there's some things you kind of feel good about. There's some other questions that you have.
Despite uncertainty, Tar Heel hype is surging. UNC says single game and season tickets are sold out. His first test, TCU tonight.
Hopefully Bill can get it, make this like a real football school. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Still, Belichick's college success is no guarantee.
70 new players on the roster. Wow. And, Bill's strength as a coach to me is developing players. And it's very difficult to do when you have that many new players in this short of time to get ready for a season.
There's also been off-the-field focus on Belichick's dating life, which has made headlines of its own. But tonight, all eyes are on Belichick as a new era begins.
But keep this in mind. A win tonight, a successful first season, those do not necessarily mean long-term guaranteed success for Bill Belichick in college football either. Recruiting is different from NFL free agency. The dynamics are different. And here's something else to keep in mind, as our friend Mike Florio from NBC Sports pointed out to me months ago when we found out that Belichick was being named the head coach at UNC. The players he is going to be trying to recruit and convince to come play for him at UNC were kids the last time he won a Super Bowl. So he is not necessarily a household name who has been front of mind for these athletes as they've been getting ready for college football. But we will find out tonight how this all begins. This is just the start of a new chapter, and you can bet people are going to be paying attention. Ellison.
Jesse Kirsch, thank you. Turning now to top stories, Global Watch, and we begin starting with Ukraine's military intelligence saying that it destroyed 2 Russian Mi-8 helicopters worth tens of millions of dollars. Newly released video with infrared imaging allegedly showing Ukrainian drones targeting the helicopters at an airbase in Crimea. The video showing the vulnerability of Russian aircrafts to drone strikes as Ukraine steps up its attacks on military and infrastructure. And Pakistan's Punjab province experiencing the biggest flood in its history as water levels of 3 major rivers reach all-time highs. Intense flooding impacting 2 million people, leaving some stranded as water engulfs their homes, others clambering into rescue boats floating across fully submerged farmlands. Over 800 people have been killed by rain-related incidents in Pakistan so far this summer. And redheads rejoiced over the weekend as the world's largest festival for ginger locks took place in the Netherlands. The 3-day celebration saw several thousand redheads from 80 different countries enjoying music, food, and workshops covering everything from makeup to skincare. The annual event culminates in a massive group photo that once broke the record for the largest gathering of people with naturally red hair. Now to a counterfeit trend that's fooling even the savviest of shoppers. Fake designer handbags so convincing that luxury resellers are fighting back with fashion forensics. Our correspondent Emily Aketa shows us the high-tech tools they're using to divide the real from the replica.
Hermes, Bottega Veneta, Louis Vuitton. Luxury brands have been around for decades. And so have the cheap, plasticky copycats sold for a fraction of the price.
It is the Bottega Hop. Is this fake?
But a new generation of dupes far more convincing is emerging.
I felt this leather before on this exact model, and it does not feel like this.
Fashion influencer Jonathan Guo says he was stunned by just how realistic this knockoff he purchased for more than $1,000 secondhand was. Fortunately, he did get a full refund.
It definitely is just like one among thousands of unfortunate instances, and it's only thanks to like all the prior experience that I had that I was even able to detect that there might be something wrong.
These so-called super fakes have brands and businesses scrambling to ramp up authentication standards.
I would say those really started to emerge around COVID, actually.
Luxury reseller The Real pulled 7,000 counterfeit handbags off the market last year alone.
Is authentication more important than ever?
Authentication is absolutely more important than ever. Counterfeits used to be very obvious. They would have misspellings. The logos would be off. Today, on the outside, to sort of the untrained human eye, these items look really, really good.
So just how good? I put my own skills to the test alongside The Real's Hunter Thompson.
I'm gonna feel it. Okay, feels nice.
Looking over, touching, even smelling these two apparent Hermes Constance bags.
I'm going to make a guess. I think this is the fake. It is?
Good job. You're hired.
I'm hired. The reason why is like I feel like there is a slight difference in feeling.
Absolutely.
The look is absolutely the same, but there's a slight difference in how it feels.
Subtle differences made much more evident with the help of The Real's newest addition,
our very state-of-the-art X-ray machine.
As technology takes on a larger role in backing up even the trained eye. Thompson noting the differences in the hardware and springs.
When we look at the real deal here, you're going to see a difference in this spring.
His team now also uses cameras to microscopically look at the surface of an item.
When that camera sees an anomaly, it's comparing it to all of this past data that we've collected, and it's able to say, hey, something's up here. Let's take a deeper look.
How about the Hermes Birkin bag? Can you pinpoint which is fake? The Real looks for a funny smell, too perfect of stitching, cheaper metals, feet screwed on rather than hammered into the bag as red flags. This one is worth nearly $25,000.
The speed at which counterfeits are produced has really enhanced over the last couple of years. We see items within the same season. We could see a counterfeit, honestly, before we see the real item in some cases.
And while many like Woe have mistakenly purchased a knockoff, one survey shows more than half of consumers worldwide have intentionally purchased a counterfeit. As experts say, the attitude around these super fakes has shifted amid an uncertain economy and fans fed up by sky-high prices. Social media flooded with shoppers comparing dupes with the actual item.
I never need to really be that rich because this is good enough.
But Thompson says any suggestion super fakes offer the same quality is misleading.
It's illegal to sell counterfeit goods. It's not illegal to buy a counterfeit good. So what would your word of caution be to shoppers?
Think about what this might be fueling. Think about labor. It may look great on the outside for a couple of months, but a lot of the construction we see, especially like under X-ray, it's going to fall apart. It's just not worth it at the end of the day.
Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
And still to come on Top Story, the school bus driver who wins our Best Dressed Award. Why he decided to roll up on the first day of school wearing a tuxedo. That moment going viral. Stay with us. We're back now with the school bus driver who's gone viral for going the extra mile when it came to making a good first impression on the first day of school. Here's NBC's George Solis with more.
The name's Champion, Lucas Champion. And no, he's not a James Bond impersonator. And as you'll hear, there's good reason he's dressed to the nines.
I was pretty stressed out, just about the first day. It's my first day of school, not as a student. I have this thing. Let me throw it on real quick.
This Fairfax County, Virginia public school driver decided to don his groomsman black tuxedo to welcome students on board his bus to start the new school year.
It's like, bingo. I got it. I got to go find it.
I mean, this is the ultimate first impression.
Oh, for sure. For some kids, it's their first time riding a bus at all.
The sartorial splendor spotted by his former teacher, Amy Hard, who initially clocked the sharp-dressed driver and soon realized it was one of her own.
I look and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Lucas Champion. He's like, hi.
And like any good educator, she wanted to make sure his first day was memorialized in a now viral photo.
You have that old stereotype of like this mean bus driver, and you get on and you're met with these just smiling eyes and somebody who's having a bit of fun.
Champion says the tux may very well become part of a new annual tradition, bringing new meaning to dressing for the job you want.
Find a way to smile, to have fun in your day, even if it's something simple. And you never know, it might make somebody else's day a little brighter.
Thanks to a bus driver going that extra mile. George Solis, NBC News.
And finally tonight, 20 years after Hurricane Katrina, one of New Orleans' musicians is making sure the storm doesn't silence the city, or didn't rather, or its music. Here's Priscilla Thompson with the story of Trombone Shorty.
Most people know Troy Andrews as Trombone Shorty, one of the most prolific jazz musicians of his time. But back home in New Orleans, in his old high school auditorium, he's much more than just that.
The way I grew up is over with because of Katrina, and I wanted to be able to reach all of those kids so we can keep the legacy going.
In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, he founded the Trombone Shorty Foundation, working alongside his childhood friend and fellow musician, Julian Gosson, to ensure that even as the city struggled to recover, that iconic New Orleans sound survived the storm.
The brass band during that time played such a pivotal role because we don't need electricity. Band could just stand on the corner and make everybody feel good.
You could just see people crying, and once they hear that tuba and the snare drum, someone ate a po' boy and they just had tears in their eyes.
How worried were you all that the music would be lost?
I was a little bit worried because it needs to be here. We have to be on the street.
The students they now teach weren't even born or were only kids when Katrina hit. 20 years after Katrina, you all are the new generation of musicians. What story do you want to tell?
We're still here doing it big, like we don't let anything stop us.
The music and the people playing on.
Homes have changed, architecture has changed, streets have been renamed.
Yeah.
But the music is always going to be the music.
People that keep it alive, that's going to always be here.
Priscilla Thompson, NBC News, New Orleans.
Thanks so much for watching Top Story. For Tom Llamas, I'm Ellison Barber in New York. Stay right there. More news is on the way.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.